The Bills had a preseason game with the Chicago Bears on Saturday, and they destroyed them. Like, quite literally dismantled the Bears in every shape and form. I don't think there was a point where I was like, oh man, like this player is much better than ours. I wish we had him. That just never really crossed my mind. And I got some notes, some for offense, some for defense, and some for special team. I know Justin brought that to the table too, but I figured we just kind of do a round robin style and just take it from there. Sound good to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's start with the offense. For me, right off the bat, and no surprise here, but the Bills, man, they have the best QB room in the NFL, hands down, in my opinion. And I don't think there's a close second, really. And Mitch Trubisky looked super good. I don't know if it was because it was his birthday the day before, or maybe it was the day after, but regardless, I don't know if it was his birthday or the fact that he was coming back to Chicago, the game that was labeled his revenge game, but I'm sure to him it was just another preseason game. But 4 drives, 4 touchdowns. I mean, and Trubisky finished the half going 20 of 28 for 220 yards and a touchdown. Pretty awesome.
He had that sweet scramble too.
Oh
Thought he
yeah.
was like dead to rights in the backfield, and he scampered out for the first down there. As far as it being like just another preseason game for him, like I kind of agree with that, but there's also like that innate human nature to be like, this is the team that cast me off. Like
Mm-hmm.
preseason or not, you got to come into that game with a little bit of extra moxie, and I think he really showed out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially with it being in Chicago in front of their fans as well to
Mm-hmm.
prove a point. Now, always thought, now, Andrew, I always kind of thought like you did for a long time, as far as like, it's just another preseason game. And I mentioned this in our podcast last night that, uh, I listen to a lot of fantasy football podcasts, right? And they
Mm-hmm.
always are like, when the player that's been traded or cut or, signed to another team that was cast off from their previous team, like that's their revenge game. Like perfect example was when like Deshaun Jackson went from the Eagles to like the Redskins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, you're gonna want to plug Deshaun Jackson into your lineup, like he's gonna have a big game. Like yeah, okay, like it's just another game, right? Like it's literally week 10, like it's week 10 no matter what. And sure enough, he has like 200 yards receiving, which he never does. Like there is absolutely something, I'm convinced now, that there is a revenge game, and he doesn't know when he's going to get a chance to play them again. It's still kind of new, it's still kind of raw for him. And for all intents and purposes, I don't know if it's necessarily his fault of everything that went
Mm-hmm.
down and happened in Chicago. So I definitely have some sympathy for him in that respect. I mean, it wasn't his fault that he was drafted number one overall, like that season, and they had to trade up for him. I mean, as Bears fans, they had to be upset anyway, because they have to move up one spot, and they gave up like 5 picks or something
Oh
stupid
yeah.
like. Yeah, and that Mitchell Trubisky's fault? No. It kind of reminds me of Sammy Watkins. Remember when we traded a first round pick for Sammy Watkins and moved up to get him? Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone was just a little bit pissed just in the fact that they had to give up so much for him. And then it's like, okay, well, this guy better pan out. And he didn't. He wasn't terrible, but everyone was just upset. It's just like Dante Whitner. He was drafted number 8 overall. Normally, you don't take a safety that early. It wasn't Dante Whitner's fault that he was drafted at the top of the first round. I mean, it was a bit. So I definitely, but like you guys both mentioned, he looked surgical out there. He looked really good, placing the ball where he needed to, finding guys open, and then also, throwing them open on a couple of different times. The one thing I will say is, which I'm glad that he's not our starting quarterback, is that I feel like Josh Allen always he like throws his guys open a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
so you'll get a little bit more yards after catch with his guys. Mitch Trubisky reminded me of kind of like Ryan Fitzpatrick, where you throw those slants and the guy gets tackled right away, or it's like a comeback route, and the guy catches the ball, but it's like 8 yards and tackled right away. But I mean, still, he looked really good. He makes me so much more confident in the Bills offense if Josh Allen gets injured this season. And for whatever reason, I don't even want to say that, but like, knock on wood, he ever gets injured. Um, I think I feel much better than if Matt Barkley were back there for sure.
Yeah, and I totally agree. You've changed my mind on the revenge game. And speaking of revenge game, I don't know why this comes up to my head, but I just think about how LaShawn McCoy went back to Philly and he came out, kissed the Eagle insignia at midfield, and then when we lost, he was the first person into the tunnel. He was just so mad. I just don't know why that comes to my mind, and I felt so bad for Shady, but what can you do?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was probably one of those games where Rex Ryan made him a captain too, so he felt even worse when they lost. Because that's what he loved to do. He loved to make those guys the captain for when they played their former teams. But yeah,
For sure.
I'm so
for
glad
sure.
we started podcasting after the Rex era.
this is so much more fun.
Yeah, it would have
right?
been
Yeah.
it would have been like a actual third job coming to do this and be like, Rex said something stupid again. Let's talk about it.